Hello and welcome to the Madison Podcast. That is true, I am indeed a madman. I am your host, or the most common host at least, on the Madison Podcast. Why that is, I don't know. Ben Lavender, New York's favorite British mortgage broker by default. Today, I have a fellow Brit on the show, which I honestly thought about not bringing you on for a while because his accent is far more authentic and real than mine as a fellow Brit. So we have Isaiah Ajala. Welcome to the show from Brown Harris Stevens. Yep. I went to your office a couple weeks ago, or a month ago, I think it was, and it was very impressive, huge, massive thing. And today we have you on the podcast, which, again, I'm excited. Again, I did hesitate because your accent's much thicker. But please just briefly look into the camera, tell the people who you are, what you do, why you are the bomb diggity dong.
Thank you. Ben, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here. Even though I have my own podcast, I don't really like talking, but I'm excited for this one.
You're more of a doer.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, I'm Isaiah Ajala. I'm a real estate broker with Brown Harris Stevens. I'm an associate broker with Brown Harris Stevens out there in Brooklyn. I'm licensed over in their Park Slope office. They do have a few offices, but I'm licensed in their Park Slope office. Been here 12 years from London. I've been in the industry 8 years now. I think my first year was part-time, but 7 years full-time. And I focus mainly on sales on the listing side. I work primarily with sellers, although I'd also, of course, work with buyers.
We don't discriminate.
Right.
Yeah, just what you focus on. So let's start off with this, because I'm just selfishly curious myself. I know you told me before, but it's good for people to rehear. What made you move to America?
My family.
Okay, did they hold a gun to your head, or it was just opportunity?
An emotional gun. I'm joking. Nah, to be fair, I've always been infatuated with America and New York. Yeah. Right? Growing up in England, I always grew up on American culture, whether it was the music, whether it was the food. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, the culture, right? Like, you used to watch, most of the films we watched back home was like American films, right? Other than Notting Hill, is like everything else was American.
Which is still considered like a Hollywood movie, to be fair.
Right, okay. But everything else was American, and more so New York, right? I grew up on hip hop. I grew up on New York hip hop, and even like a lot of the films that I used to watch was all based around New York. So I always had an affinity with New York. Right. So when the opportunity came around, I was just like, yeah, I'm out of here.
What was that opportunity or that catalyst?
My son was born.
Oh.
Yeah, awesome. My son was born, and I was just like, all right, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, you're like, I can't live in London anymore.
I was like, London, and London is small, man. London is small. England is small, and it's just like outside of London, you might have Birmingham, you might have Manchester, and it's just like everywhere is just small towns. Right. And it's like not a ton of opportunity. Right, not a ton of opportunity, and everywhere's just literally just small, right? You just have one city centre, and that's it, and it's just like you know everyone. And I think big. I've got big plans and everything, and I just like, if I'm gonna thrive, probably America and New York is where I'm gonna be. Yeah,
and you have the advantage of the accent, which I like to joke is responsible for 100% of my success.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Prior to me moving here, I had no knowledge of like the English accent.
Oh yeah, honestly, neither.
Over here, I didn't know how like people take to that. I just like, I'm from England, I'm moving over here. Yeah. But then when I got here, it's like, say Harry Potter. Say this.
I hated that stuff. It drove me crazy because I came here during like high school. Yeah. It was my first year or halfway through my first year of high school, and that was it. Every day, say Harry Potter. Yeah. And you know what's funny is that I'm finding that thanks to Instagram, TikTok, the beauty or the poshness of British people is starting to like fade away from Wayne is a much better word from the American psyche, and now it's more like Tuesday, innit? Bottle of water. Well,
now it's more like Top Boy or what's that one? There's a new film.
Top Boy I haven't seen, but everyone tells me it's great.
What's it? Splinter Cell, something like that.
Wasn't that a game?
Supercell. Yeah. So now everything's going on to that. Before it's like, say tea. And shit like that. Now it's like,
we have to take advantage of it while we can. Okay, so you came here 12 years ago. You've been in real estate to 8. So how did you get into real estate? Was it plans? I ask because most people don't plan on just getting into this business? A few do, but most.
You know what's so funny? So I've been in real estate all my life. I say I've been in real estate all my life.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a surveyor.
Oh.
My dad was a surveyor. I was a quantity surveyor. I don't know if you know quantity surveyor. I was you know what an estimator is, right?
I kind of do, but let's elaborate.
Yeah, so estimator is for construction, right? Okay. Like over here, for the purposes of the audience over here, an estimator is someone that work with developers. A developer wants to build a building, and you literally just put the numbers together. This is how much it will cost. These are the hard costs. This is the soft costs. Right. Take it, and that would essentially form your budget, right? But a quantity surveyor takes that aspect of the job plus project management. So now you're managing the financial side of a construction project.
Got it.
Right? So that's what I was doing. I'd done that in England, and I'd done that over here. And then eventually...
it must give you a huge advantage, too, coming over here, like having that kind of knowledge and background and, like, confidence as well that you have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason why I'd done that, because I've always dreamt of being a developer. Right, a developer. So I felt, all right, I'll do that once I know.
That's the big plan.
Right, that's the big plan. It's kind of changed since, but you know, I felt, okay, let me go the quantity surveyor route or cost management estimator route, and then I can always switch that into becoming a developer. Right. So once I got here, started doing that, and then I got in contact with I say a developer, but it was really just a house flipper. Right. Let me not say just, so he was a house flipper.
To be fair, most house flippers identify
as developers. Right. Yeah, it's like a fancy word, but in reality, you just, you know, putting lipstick on a house.
Right.
He was anyway.
Right.
Like, you know, like he was sending letters out saying, hey, if you want to sell your house, call me. So I was like, let me give him a call. So I gave him a call, and I was like, listen, this is what I do, but I want to go into your lane. How do you do it? Yeah, because what I used to do, your audience might not know, but at home, do you remember Homes Under the Hammer?
No.
Yeah, it was a program where they would show developers going to court or going to auction, buying houses. They'll show the house in like a poor condition, and then the developer will go in there and fix it and sell it, and they say, oh, they made 20 grand profit, they done this and then that. So that always piqued my interest. So that's why I wanted to become a developer, developer or flipper, right? So I started talking to this guy over here, Amir David, his name was, right? Started talking to him, and I was like, listen, I want to get into your space. How do I do it? So he started teaching me on how to get listings, essentially. But what he was showing me was off-market deals. Right. So he would tell me, all right, speak to attorneys, probates. He would tell me taxes, like tax liens, foreclosures. And he would teach me how to get those off-market deals.
How did you convince him to teach you? Because what you basically did is went out and recruited a mentor.
Right. But I think for him, he saw the benefit of I'm bringing him deals.
Got it.
Right. I'm bringing him deals, and then I will get a percentage of the deal when it closes.
Yeah. So that's a good exchange.
So it was mutual benefit. It was mutually beneficial for both of us. So so he would teach me those things. I'll bring him deals. And, you know, I was learning on the job. So there was a few deals where I definitely got shafted. Right. And I just like, all right, cool. That just comes with the game you're learning, you know, and things of that nature. So he taught me that. And I was doing that whilst also working the corporate job when I got here. Right. I was working both. Corporate sucks. Right. And I was like, I can't wait to just like do what I'm doing. So they were doing layoffs, got laid off, and I just figured I'm going to go full pelt with real estate. So I took that knowledge that he gave me, and I figured I'm going to get my license. Well, actually, before the layoffs, I had my license.
Gotcha.
So when they done the layoffs,
that was part of the plan anyway.
Right. So when they done the layoffs, I figured I'm just going to get my I'm just going to go full pelt. And then also I had a multi-family at the time. Okay. So my real estate agent at that time, I started talking to him like, yo, how do I get into the business? What happens? What are the pitfalls? You know, what are the do's and the don'ts? He was talking to me about the do's and the don'ts and things of that nature. So I partnered up with him and his team. At that time, they were at City Habitats, which is now Corcoran.
Gotcha. I remember
and
City
then
Habitats.
And then, I just started the business then, and then took the knowledge that Amir had given me. Amir David, he's no longer here. He's back in Israel now.
Gotcha.
But took the knowledge that he gave me with the tax liens, the probates, the foreclosures, and brung that, instead of doing off-market deals, now I'm bringing those deals onto the market and trying to maximize.
Well, the ones that they fixed up, you ended up just being the sales agent.
No, I wasn't even the sales agent. That's what I say.
Yeah.
I wasn't even.
Well, the listing, I should have said, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even getting the listings because at that point I never had my license.
Oh, okay.
At that point I never had my license, so I was just getting them deals.
Nice. Okay, so
right.
I don't want to talk about that, and I know that you can't give up like secret source information.
I don't even care.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've realized?
Most
right?
people won't do it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you could tell someone like this is where the gold is, and they'll be like, can't be bothered.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Too much digging.
Yeah.
Right. So I've given at least a solid 5 people like all my secrets.
Oh wow.
They just don't do it.
Yeah. Honestly, same. With the exception of a few. And look, I even say that if they do, then good for them. Like the market is so big, if one person kind of like copies my thing, it's not going to make that big of an impact anyway. And good for them for doing the work, you know.
And it's so crazy because once we leave here, like I can show you my database, right? I have thousands of leads, and it's like probably less than 20, more like around 20 are giving me like time.
Wow.
So it's like you have 800, 900 leads that could be for other people. So it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah, it's a wide net. There's no such thing as an exclusive lead.
Right.
You know, unless it's like a funnel, but, you know, that you've created yourself. But even then, they could go to someone else in some other way, shape or form. So
my thing, I'm all about sharing wealth, sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
Especially.
So let's talk about that then, because I know a lot of, especially realtors, want to kind of get into like the wholesaling space or even flip themselves. And so how do you go about sourcing off-market properties that are substantially less than market value?
First of all, you need to build your knowledge, right? You need to know what house prices are sold for.
Right.
You need to know what materials cost. You need to know what labor costs, and you need to know kind of like what kind of profits an investor is looking for.
And this is specifically, so my assumption is, and please correct me, Isaiah, is that in order for someone to properly wholesale it, right, it's not enough to just like find the deal, because if you're gonna sell it to an investor, you got to tell them like you're in for this, you're in for this, you're in for that. So you're saying like that's part of it.
Absolutely. And look, the investors are not emotional buyers.
Right. They're not.
They are not emotional buyers. They're all about dollars and cents, right?
Which is the way it should be.
Right. So if it makes dollars, it makes sense to them.
Yeah.
You don't want to waste their time, and you don't want them to look at you like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to know what your numbers are. And listen, there's some deals that are hairy, right? That are not maybe profitable. You're going to flip it. You're going to send it to them anyway, because they might have someone, they want to keep their team busy, even though they might not make their profits.
When you say team busy, you're referring to like the GCs. And
they're contractors, they're architects. They want to keep them busy. They want to keep them ticking over.
Them,
Right. So you want to send it to them anyway. You don't know where it's going. So you want to know what your numbers are, so that you can send them deals that are profitable, that are desirable. But in terms of getting deals, what I always tell people is, for me personally, attorneys are the best source.
Any particular type?
Probate.
Yeah.
Divorce. Yeah.
So
foreclosure attorneys.
It's funny that you say that. Well, it's not. It's actually not funny at all. It's just interesting. That, like, so for instance, at the CEs I teach, sometimes I talk about that. Like, every single one of you should look up, let's say you farm a town, because I teach CE to realtors. Right. So it's like you should all befriend the top 10 divorce attorneys and probate attorneys in your town and stop by their office once a month or whatever and BS with them, talk to them.
Yeah.
You'll get business. No one ever does it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I know why, right? And I think part of the reason is they don't know from their end what value proposition they can offer besides being able to handle the transaction. Do you have any recommendations or advice or like just general approaches for those type of attorneys?
Can I be honest with you?
Please.
I don't even know what value proposition I brought, other than the fact that I would sell the house.
Yeah, that is what we could call like very indirect or unknown confidence, because there's probably something that you really do bring. And you just don't realize.
I did, like, other than any, people will be surprised. So, on that point, right? Once I was building my network, maybe people in your audience might know, there's a building in Brooklyn, down in Brooklyn Heights, where you have a lot of attorneys.
Okay.
It's I think like a 28-story building.
Yeah.
You have attorneys on every floor.
Wow.
Right. I went from the first floor or whatever floor the attorney started, and I think it's like the 6th floor, and I went all the way up to the 28th floor, knocking on every suite and they're saying, "Hey, listen, this is who I am. Do you have deals?" You had some attorneys that looked at me, which on hindsight, I probably think they were probably dodgy, because they were just like, "Who are you? Get out of my office," right? Because I was thinking they probably thought I was the feds or something like that, right? But then you had some attorneys that are like, "Hey, listen, these are some of the clients that are looking to sell. These are the clients that I have. Call them, figure it out."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just by being there.
Just by being there. And then with some of those attorneys, I still have a great relationship with today. Some of those attorneys have retired, you know, and some of those attorneys have just gone by the wayside. But it's like a mutual relationship, because now some of those attorneys I give my leads to, right? So like if I have a client that wants to sell, like, "Hey, speak to this attorney." And what I typically do, I hope none of them are watching, I'll give them 3 or 4 attorneys. I'll be like, call them and say, "I called, I gave you their information."
Well, I think that's a safe thing to do. So for instance, like, from my understanding, the whole like you have to refer 3 lenders thing doesn't come from like an actual rule. It's there to avoid liability, right? Because if you only give one option, right, which is why I kind of like, I don't get mad at the whole lender thing, because it's happened. Like when if someone refers you to someone else, they don't have a good experience, they can sue you. Well, they win or do anything.
Right.
But so I don't think that's something to like shy away from.
Yeah.
Because also you got to kind of like give them a good feel for your personality, but you always, or for their personality is what I'm trying to say, right? Like, because you may not jive with this attorney, you may jive with another one.
Yeah, and also you want them to you want your client, whether it's a buyer or seller, to feel, which you should do, have their best interests at heart, of course, right? And not just like, "Hey, use this attorney, I use them for everything." But it's like, "Hey, look, here are 3 attorneys. You decide." Like, I'm not waging on any direction, but you decide which one you want to go with. Whichever one you want to go with, let me know. And then, I mean, I have a good relationship with all of them anyway, so then we can just roll from there.
I think that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
So, but you didn't lead or go into those relationships saying like, "Hey, I'm going to get you a ton of business." You just approached it. You ended up sending it to them because just out of law of reciprocity. Yeah. But they gave you a shot because you were persistent. You had the cojones, as we say, to go to their office and knock on their door, which a lot of people are scared to do these days.
I mean, my thing is, you're always going to face no. You're always going to hear no. And if you don't do it, it's a definite no. Yeah, you just have to get used to it. Yeah, so I'm used to hearing no. I don't care hearing no. Yeah. Like the worst is, I mean, no is the bottom, right? Yeah. Even if you tell me to F off, it's just like, whatever. I've been told that before. So the best it can get is a yes, right? So you just need one yes. You could knock on 100 doors, but you just need that one attorney, or let's say you need 5. Right. And it takes you a year to get them, and they could feed you a couple deals a month, and you'd have a great career. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, then from there you build the relationships, whether it's like hosting parties for them, right, whether it's restaurants, whether it's talking about. Whether it's like gifts for, at Christmas and things of that nature, or throwing like buying lunch for their office staff and things of that nature. That's just how you build a business or build a relationship, and then from there it progresses, and they trust you, they find you reliable. You got to be reliable. You got to know your stuff anyway. So for that to progress. We have a saying here: knowledge drives confidence, and confidence drives sales ultimately, because people want to work with someone that knows what they're doing. So how would you say that you went about kind of gaining that knowledge without experience? without experience, really just speaking to people.
Yeah.
So I told you about my realtor, right? He used to do all of my rentals because I have a few multi-properties in Brooklyn. So he used to do all my rentals. I used to speak to him.
Yeah.
My mentor, Amir, who I mentioned. But then as I went along, right, I was speaking to other investors, right, that would just like, I would build up a book of investors. So now I'm speaking to them, meeting them for drinks, coffee, lunch, whatever, speaking to them, picking up their knowledge. And then, that's really how I built it. But then I started reading. So whether it was The Real Deal, whether it's Cranes, things of that nature, I'll read and just see what's happening in the industry.
Yeah, which you need to be. Do you feel like you need to be obsessed to be successful in the business? It's a tricky question.
I think it depends.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say I think it depends is because I think there's so many ways in being successful in this business, right?
Yeah, and what does success mean to you versus him?
Right. So like there's some people that only deal with developers.
Yeah.
If you're going to deal with developers, absolutely, because their knowledge is going to be A1.
Yeah.
So you need to increase your knowledge and increase your intake of knowledge of the industry so that you can, I guess, educate them, impress them.
And speak their language.
Right. And speak their language, right? But then you have some people that only deal with people that are in distress. And without offending anyone, if those people are in distress, their knowledge of real estate ain't really going to be up there, right? Because you're in distress. So do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like your knowledge of the market or your being obsessed ain't going to necessarily be as much as it should be speaking to an investor. So it just really depends on how you position yourself. However, I would say you should obsess yourself with knowledge of the industry, because you never know who you're going to come across. And like you said, right, if you're knowledgeable, you're prepared. So anyone you come across in the real estate world, any seller, investor, you don't even know where your next opportunity is going to come from. So you should arm yourself with knowledge.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like at least in the beginning of your career, whether it's real estate, mortgage, or kind of any sales business, especially if you don't know a ton, you have to be obsessed for the first minimum, like 2 years, minimum. Then after...
Wait, define being obsessed.
Obsessed meaning literally 90% of your thoughts, feelings, even when you're not at the office, you're thinking about the business. I know people like this, and I know people who, I mean, I've been like that for a portion of the business as well, and then I was just like, I can't do this forever. You have to kind of have a life. But a lot of people that I know, like I see it a couple ways, right? You've got some people who naturally are just gifted. They're great with people. They love the business, and they're just naturally, they fall into it, and they do really, really well, right? It's just natural for them. They're God's chosen people of real estate, I guess you could call them. But I feel like that's a very small portion. It's like, when I say small, I mean like less than 1%. The rest are either they're gifted in the business, meaning they came in already knowing a lot of people, or they already had the network. Let's say the family, is in real estate, they have a bunch of rentals for them. That's another portion. And if you're listening to that being like, oh, I hate those people. No, look, those people, they exist, right? You hating on them and being like, oh, I wish I was that. Like, it's not going to do anything for you, right? So you have to be about, like, kind of the next portion of people, which is the ones that grind and I don't hate to use the word, but it's probably not the best word, like suffer. You have to suffer for a while and, like, feel the pain. When I entered the business, I didn't know anything. And I was in pain every day for quite a long time. Yeah. Because it takes that tenacity, that grit to really get good at it. But of course, again, it helps if you have the experience and the knowledge.
And you know what? You've got to create your own opportunities, right? So like that. Something that I struggle with even to today is I've only been in the country 12 years. Right. I don't have an alma mater. I don't have a church family or... a group of friends that I went to school with that are now ready to buy or whatever. Yeah. I'm just literally here, right? So I've had to build my sphere. I've had to build, like, my book of business.
Look, how did you do that?
Again, walking into offices, cold calling, Whether it's
Yeah, you
cold
told me
calling.
you love to cold call.
That's like, what else can I do
Yeah.
other than that and networking? And do you know what else as well? I'm an introvert. I don't like speaking to people,
Yeah.
right? So like networking and things of that nature is just like, I don't think I know how to network. That's something that I need to improve.
Right.
I don't necessarily know how to network. So yeah, that's something I have on my list to improve on, right? I'm reading a few books now.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing fine without it. It's interesting because a lot of people say, and I don't agree with this, but a lot of people say that you can't succeed in this business if you're not an extrovert.
Yeah.
Right, which, again, I don't necessarily agree with. So as an introvert,
Yeah.
how did you approach the business and grow the business by not doing extrovert things, if you will? And I know a lot of people are going to love that because a lot of introverts are in the business.
You have to do extrovert things.
Okay.
I feel like you have to.
That's a good answer.
Because for me, I don't like talking.
Yeah.
I don't like talking. I don't like speaking to new people.
Right.
I like being comfortable. So like my friends are my friends.
Yeah.
Like I know you. Okay, you've warmed yourself to me. I'm gonna open up myself.
But when you're making like the cold calls, for instance,
Yeah.
like your introversion must kick in and you must get anxiety. Like, how do you overcome that if you even feel it?
Because of what I said before, no is no. Like
Right.
if I don't make this phone call, it's gonna be no anyway.
Right.
So why not risk it, or why not take this opportunity for that yes?
Yeah.
Like there's many times when I make cold calls, I'm making 500 phone calls, and it's just like 5 people have spoken to me, and 1 person has said yes.
Yeah.
And then that one yes could lead to a sell.
Right.
Right? And if you do that every day, or if you do that, twice a week, it's 2 sales in 1 week, potentially. Right? So I guess probably it's fair.
Yeah.
Fear of not succeeding, fear of failing.
I think that's a good override.
Right? And also my dream. Like
Yeah.
I want to I told you before.
Table. Sorry.
I told you at the top of the conversation, right, that I dreamt of being a developer.
Yeah.
Now that has transcended into being a landlord.
Right.
Right? I don't want to flip houses. I want to leave houses for my kids.
Right.
Right? So now if that's my dream, I've got to get on the phones. I've got to get busy to build up my portfolio to live for my children.
Right.
Right? So I think that's what drives me.
Your
my friend.
why overrides all the basically excuses.
Excuses, yeah, and
tells them.
Like I said, for me, no is nothing. No
Yeah.
is
And when I say I don't mean to like undermine people's like fears and anxiety, but at the end of the day, it's just made up fear in our heads, right? It's
That's
not
all it is.
actually real. It's just
it's all in your head.
Yeah.
It's all in your head. If you can get over that, you're good. No, you don't need to get over it. You just need to prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Make a few phone calls and see how people react.
Yeah,
Some
and it's
people are gonna
honestly, it's
say,
not
yeah.
that bad to get rejected. Like someone say, yeah, no, I'm not interested. Oh, like sure, you'll get some people who are angry and like,
Yeah.
I'm not interested, I'm coming for your family. But that's like, it's rare. The average person will either just hang up. I mean, that's what I do. I probably get, like most people, maybe 5 phone calls a day that are just, salespeople trying to sell me nonsense. And, if you figure out the scripts after a while, it's so predictable. It's like, oh, I know this one. Bye.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm calling from Google. It's like, yeah, you work for Google. Yeah, well, which desk are you at in San Francisco or wherever they are? I don't even know.
Yeah, do you know what?
You
And
spotted it.
you know what's so funny? Okay, another thing that I do is whenever I get a sales caller, I used to shun them away, like, get off my phone.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, all right,
Do you want to hear that pitch?
I want to hear their pitch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm playing along. And if it's anything that I like, I'm going to use it. I have my pitch.
That's
right?
very interesting.
I have my pitch that I use.
Actually, that is like a business obsessive behavior. I don't know if you realize that,
No,
but it's like the average person. Do you know who else I heard say that the other day?
Yeah.
Alex Hormozy. He says it in his book. I was listening to, I think it was $100 Million Offers. And he was saying like, every time you see an advertisement, you should watch it and try and figure out the cadence of it and like turn it into a game. You're doing the same thing. You just didn't realize it.
I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But now I listen to them and I ask questions and, play along. All right, yeah, call me back in 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
Block the number. But it's like,
Let's hear your rebuttals. Yeah.
I want to hear how, because going back to what you were saying, right, about my introvertedness, I guess once I get a rebuttal, what I used to do was like, okay, cool, you don't want to sell, all right, fine.
Yeah.
And then go away, right? But then for a lot of people, and everyone, if you're not expecting that call, it's easy for you to say no.
Right.
If someone is not in front of you and you're just hearing a voice, it's easy for you to say no. But it's the persistence, right? Not doing it aggressively.
Yeah.
Not being an about it.
Yeah, you can be polite.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the persistence in which gets you the deals. So being persistent and just ask some questions. Because listen, if I said, hey, you want to sell your house? No.
Right.
Of course you're going to say no.
Cool.
But if I start
drilling, you know why you're calling.
Yeah. If I start drilling down, like, hey, do you know how much your house is worth? No. How much? Well, your house is worth this much.
Yeah.
If I can get you that, would you be interested? No. Okay. Why not? I want to pass it down to my kids. Fine. I just haven't thought about it. Okay. Yeah. So then that creates another question, another conversation. So that's where I've started now to kind of like politely push and like, you know, yeah, see where their thoughts are.
I find it to be a very like elegant and maybe scientific is an exaggeration, but
yeah.
What you're kind of doing, and I also did this without realizing, but you're like kind of split testing different responses and just like figuring it out yourself. Yeah. You're essentially writing your own playbook. Yeah, you talk to people and you read books, but you're testing all these different approaches and answers and figuring out what works best. And my guess, because I feel like this happened to me, because I did cold calling, like to build my business as a loan officer, I used to cold call realtors. Right. And like I realized because I was told like open up with the pitch that we close in 30 days and our rates are super low. And then after a few phone calls, I realized every single lender says that. So it's just like, how can I like disarm these realtors? So I would cold call them and be like, hey, Mr. Realtor, I wanted to be the 50th lender that cold called you today. Am I number 50?
Yeah.
And like eventually I got to that, and that used to kind of be my opener, because it like would tell the realtor that like this guy understands like my side of the business, plus he has a sense of humor. You know, and it's like eventually like you find those little things, and then would you say, because this is how I felt, right? Like you develop, you could call it like a sixth sense or even instinct that like now your responses aren't rebuttals to objections. It's just a conversation now, and you know how to handle these conversations. Yeah,
and then you also want to flow off their conversation, right? You don't want to be robotic.
Right.
Because even if I have rebuttals, it might be robotic.
Right.
They may sense like, all right, you're reading from a script. Yeah. I told you I wasn't interested and you asked me about this. So
I actually have to tell you a story about this. It just popped into my head. I had this realtor friend of mine. It goes on with the how inauthenticity of scripts can be like a massive turnoff.
Right.
So I had this realtor lady that I was friends with for years. We did some deals together here and there. Yeah. And then one day she calls me. This was maybe like 2-3 years after knowing each other. Like we know each other a while. And she says to me, you know, so Ben, can you tell me what is your marketing budget like for the year? And I'm just like, this is the biggest line. It was like, to me, I was so insulted because I was like, you know, like you're a friend of mine. If you literally just said, hey, like Ben, I'm looking to do some mailers. Can you help me out? I would have been like, yeah, immediately. But the fact that she used like a line on me, I felt so insulted. This was like 6 years ago. I haven't gotten over it. So I don't even think she's still in the business, honestly. But still, that can really turn someone off. Like you're using a script on me. Like people want authenticity. They want a real conversation.
And to your point, so I read a few books. But again, you know, like when I'm reading these books, I'm like, you guys have never cold called in New York. Right? You've never called Brooklyn. Yeah, it's like calling Brooklyn homeowners or Manhattan homeowners. I'm like, you've never done that.
Yeah, talk about that, please. Talk about how different that is. That's a fun one.
Some of the responses have been wild. Yeah. It's so rude you have to laugh, right? Yeah. But at the same time, it's like you want to be authentic, and you know, like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but it's like, this only works in the suburbs.
Right.
This
and
works
also
in the Midwest.
The BS meter of New York City people, it's like, they know. They can smell it.
They don't have time, right? They don't have time for that bullshit. Get to it. What is it?
Right.
Why are you calling, right? So I adjusted my pitch to accommodate that. It's like, you want to get to it straight away. you want to remain calm as well. I think New Yorkers can tell when you're nervous.
Right.
So you want to remain calm and just have that.
The BS radar is
like
on max. They know.
Right.
So
for me, it was like, and it took a few years. It took a few years. Like you want to practice and play and have fun with it, while adjusting it to make it make sense and
not easy to do
and sound like a conversation. But it's got to be authentic to you, right? Like things you would say,
because then it wouldn't come off as authentic to them,
right? And then they can hear the nervousness, they can hear the hesitation in your voice, but you want it to like flow like clockwork, like a real conversation, like what we're doing now.
Right. Yeah, that's the beauty of podcasts.
Yeah.
Even though we're not pitching each other or anything. Anthony, how are we doing on time? We're at 40 minutes?
Already?
Okay. Yeah, usually we cut off at 30, but I like this and I have a bunch of questions, so let's keep going.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. Okay. So this is just a couple questions that I wrote down, which I think give people good insight to your personality and also just general some good advice here and there. But let's go back to kind of your origin story.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer actually, but if you could go back to when you started in the business, said 8 years ago, and do anything differently or give yourself advice on like, hey, focus on this or focus on this, what would it be, if anything?
I'll focus on the system.
What does that mean?
Operating my business as a business and not a part-time or side gig or something for quick money.
Yeah.
Right? So like follow-ups, something, a system that would allow me to follow up with my clients. I've been in there 8 years. I've met so many people. And like whenever like I'm going to be doing a party soon, in my head I'm like, I don't have no clients. Who can I invite? And it's just like, everyone should be there.
Yeah.
Like, I should have a button to press and it goes out to my 500 clients that I've worked with or interacted with over the years, right? Systematizing my business, knowing what works for me, knowing how many deals I've done last year, where did those deals come from, and things of that nature. That's what I
know your
focus
numbers.
on. Right, know my numbers. That's exactly because what I focused on were the leads.
Right.
I know how to get a ton of leads.
Which to be fair,
is the business.
You got no numbers to look at if you don't have any leads.
Right. but for me, like knowing how I got into the business, I should have had a focus on that a lot earlier.
Right.
Than I did. Which, listen, leads is the most important thing, right? You could focus on your systems all you want. If you don't have no numbers, then you're right. Yeah. But for me, the way how I got into the business, I should have systematized my business a lot more and functioned as a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
Right? Because I think professionalism, not to say I'm not professional, I am professional, but professionalism in this industry goes a long way. I think a lot of people shun on realtors because they're just like, anyone can sell their house, just put it on their MLS and sell it, put it on street easy.
Do yourself, have a great time.
Right.
Yeah.
But you'll quickly realize that even though, like you said, you may come into a family or a group that has business for you,
right? Once
you go into the ocean by yourself, you'll quickly sink if your system ain't on point.
It's a very good point. Okay, I love that. I was very fortunate that someone actually gave me that advice about 18 months into the business.
Yeah.
Not specifically the same way, but he basically said, I've actually had him on this podcast. It's Richard Raspantini. He's a broker of HomeSmart Premier. He owns a bunch of HomeSmart offices in New York. Oh, yeah. And he was like, I think he was coming from like IT sales or something. And he wasn't necessarily talking to me about systems, but it was basically treat your business like a business. Yeah. Too many people come into this business as like, I'm just like selling homes or selling mortgages, and it's an entire system, and you have to invest into it. You have to put money into it, like it's a business, which a lot of people don't want to do. But it's just part of the game. You know, just part of the game. Okay, if you weren't in the real estate business, what would you be doing?
In some capacity. All right. So I've been in real estate all my life in whatever capacity.
Can't use it.
All right. So ideally, my ultimate dream was to be a soccer player.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah. I was pretty decent as well, but...
Yeah?
Yeah. Just don't.
What position you play?
A few. Two. I was good at two.
Yeah.
Centre, midfield, and goalkeeper.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that surprised me, because those are two very opposites. Midfielders run the entire pitch basically more than anyone, and goalkeepers don't. It's so
I think
opposite.
I used to play the game in my head.
Yeah.
So as a midfielder, I was like a someone that would sit and dictate the play and take it easy. And I think I took that, and I was as a goalkeeper as well, because now you're seeing the entire field.
Right.
So now you're dictating from the
so
back.
it would help each other. Yeah.
Right. So you're dictating from the back. Yeah. So, and I was pretty good. I used to, the goals were a lot more smaller, but I used to play out in Chelsea pairs as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty decent. But now I'm old, man. It's not the same.
Different priorities and injuries, and
It's not the same.
no.
You wake up different now.
Yeah, I mean, that would be quite the life too. I feel you, man. I'm a little bit younger than you, but I've, just entering my 30s. I mean, I told you I dislocated my shoulder. I've had 2 surgeries. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
Getting old is not fun. But with that said, I do feel that, we can limit it and we can still remain healthy. I mean, I know healthy 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds still moving around.
I still get active. In terms of like running.
Yeah.
I do a lot of running, do a lot of calisthenics at home.
Okay, so you stay in shape.
Oh, yeah. I try to.
Yeah. But you do a pretty good job of it. I mean, you seem, you're in good shape, you're healthy, so that's a good sign. Okay, let's move on because we are running out on time, and I think Anthony is getting antsy. Yeah. All right, which is okay. What is the biggest misconception? This is actually a very good one. Yeah, what is the biggest misconception that you find consumers have when it comes to a real estate transaction? That comes up almost every time. They think it's this way, but it's not.
And I don't want to on
you should, whoever it is,
like these real estate like programs, shows now, but I think they think it's an easy life.
Yeah, it's not.
I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of tears. That come into that are associated with realtors and the industry as a whole. That you have to jump through hoops to get a deal done. Even the easiest of deals, you have to jump through hoops. Talk less. And we're in New York, right, where the law is not necessarily on the side of owners. You have to jump through hoops to get. Currently, I have like 14 listings. Half of them are in contract, and half of those deals that I have in contract have been in contract for damn near a year, just because of like whether it's the tenants not moving out.
But I feel that makes sense given that you're working with like probate, divorce, and like especially multifamily properties where there's also another tenant in Brooklyn. That makes sense.
So like it's never easy. No. It's never easy. So when people say, "Oh, you're getting, it's easy money," or "You're getting 6% for just opening up doors," and it's just like, if you knew how many attorneys I had to speak to, or how many like city agencies I had to talk to about this tenant or this gas line or this, and it's just, I'm a realtor. I thought all I was doing was opening up doors.
Right, but you're doing other jobs of other people as well. You're doing kind of everyone's jobs, even as mortgage people. I mean, depends on the mortgage company, but you do our jobs to a degree. Like we don't have deals without you guys at the end of the day. This may make you feel a little bit better or worse. I do probably 99% of my business is in New York, even though I'm licensed in like 20 states. But every time I do a deal out of New York, typically closes very quickly. Like 3 weeks, easy, 4 weeks. You got no attorneys involved. You're not dealing with the building department over here. It's like, so doing a New York deal is realistically 3 to 5 times the amount of work as an out-of-state deal, or a state with no attorneys and no nonsense. No, sorry, attorneys. It's just it's such a difference. I would say you should try it. Give it a shot, man.
Working out of state?
Try.
What state would you say?
Florida tends to be pretty easy. Even like Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Very, very easy. California. Maybe when I say easiness, because what happens, at least from what I can see on my side, a lot of the time is spent from like getting a deal, an offer accepted, to its signing. The amount of work, especially in a competitive market where the realtor has to go back in and fight off the other offers, even though the offer is accepted, and you're fighting off while you're doing the inspection and waiting to sign the contract and waiting for the contract to be overnighted to the seller's office for the seller to sign, right? That's a lot of time goes into there. And that's where a lot of deals, if the deals don't die there, which I find if that's where they die, that's typically where they die. But even if that's not where it dies, so much time is being put into there, and it takes away from spending time on other deals.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if I'm convincing you, but I'm trying.
No, do you know what's so funny? So I've actually thought about going into, upstate New York, but also Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I never thought about
It's a little easier
Connecticut
upstate too.
because I buy houses.
Yeah.
I was thinking of taking my strategy over here and taking it over there, and a lot of people are buying homes.
Oh, you're buying like investments out of state.
I'm buying investments in Brooklyn.
Got it.
But I was thinking if I could take the strategy I used to get houses over here, out there, and potentially flip them or just sell them,
Right.
then that's another income stream.
You could. I know not a ton, but a good amount of people that do out of state that like live in New York.
Oh yeah.
And they got to travel, they got to go there, obviously.
Yeah.
But
And obviously those states are like driving distance.
Yeah.
And I could just fly up there on a day.
yeah, get
whatever.
a little break from the wife and the kids.
Yeah.
A couple of days, chill. It's it's okay. It's not bad to have some alone time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next one. This question I love. If you have to recommend to people in the business, specifically realtors getting into the business or been in the business for 10 years, best book, podcast, or sort of medium for them to help them in their business.
Man.
Take your time.
Never Split the Difference.
Chris Voss, yeah. One of my favorites.
So this is weird. So, okay, Never Split the Difference. Then Wolf of Wall Street.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, because that helped me with my pitching. You've got Ninja Selling.
I'm not familiar. Who's that by?
Don't know. I could check.
No, we'll Google it.
Yeah, Ninja Selling. And then you've got the what's the Keller Williams book?
Oh, I've actually read it. There are a few.
Can I pull my phone up?
Yeah.
Who is it by? Give me 1 second.
It's not by Gary himself.
It is by Gary, but I don't know like he has a few, like you said. Hold on. So, Ninja Selling is by Larry Kendall.
Got it.
And then, The $1 Million Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. Yeah.
I've read that
So
one.
those books there.
It's good.
Yeah. So, and then, I do a lot of driving, so I got them on audiobook.
Well, I figured, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just on repeat. Like I just listen to them multiple times, maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Whatever, because obviously there's things you forget.
Yeah, and maybe your mindset's different when you pick up something else too.
Right.
Right.
Oh, and the E-Myth on real estate.
It's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. So yeah.
I remember when I read that book, that's when I immediately was like, okay, I need to hire help.
Yeah.
That book changed it for me. It's like I can't just keep doing this myself.
Reading that book also made me focus on my systems as well.
Yeah. Great book. Highly recommend it. The E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a hobby or thing or something about you that people are often surprised to learn?
I like golf. I like golfing.
Really? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
You're a golfer?
Yeah, not a big one. I started golfing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started
Good for
golfing.
business too.
Yeah. I started golfing. What else? I like diving.
Diving?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like deep sea.
Oh, cool. How'd you
Yeah.
even get into that?
I don't know. People say because of my star sign of sea sign or whatever, ocean sign, I'm a Cancer. I don't know. But I just always like the water.
You gravitate to the
Yeah,
ocean.
always like the water. Always like fish and things of that nature.
Fish is
And
fun.
like
Yeah.
diving is peaceful.
Yeah, it looks
Scary,
actually.
but peaceful.
I'm sure you get used to it after a while. Are you like scuba diving or are you just diving like straight?
Scuba.
No, okay. Do you have a scuba license?
Yeah, no. Just I only do it like when I go on holiday.
Gotcha.
So whenever I go on holiday, that's like the first thing I look for. Like, can I do diving?
Scuba, to get the license would be cool actually. Cause
You can get over here. I know I had a friend or one of like my kid's dad's friend. That makes sense. He does it over here and he does it like in Jersey and like does like bolts that have sunk. And
so he goes down that. Okay, that's crazy. But even as like a hobby, I think I saw on Instagram someone like got their scuba license, but every time they travel, right, they use it. Like so they got it with the purpose of, let's say they go to Mexico, Caribbean, wherever. You know, and this way they get to go. They don't have to go through any nonsense, and it's like I think it's a nice little hobby. It's healthy. As well. It's much healthier than the average hobbies. I bring this up specifically because there's also a misconception that a lot of people in the business are essentially degenerates with their extra time and their hobbies, which I have found is not the case, by the way.
Not the case.
Very, very rare.
I like running as well, but if you follow my Instagram, you know I run. So that's not really something people be surprised by.
Yeah, I'm personally not a fan of running. I was a sprinter. Yeah. But not a... God, I can't take it, man. I just don't get it.
I like it. You get to think, man. Yeah. You get to think. It's just, I like it. Yeah. You just get to think.
Like, I see the appeal, but it's just like, why run when you can not run and enjoy sitting in a chair?
Yeah, but then you're just there. And also, you get to see different things. Yeah. So even if you run the same route every day, something's going to change, right? The people around you are changing.
That's true. I think that's also like mentally very healthy for you. When you're in the same like routine every day, you don't think like differently. It doesn't leave you open to taking new things in. There's got to be a study on that, but I guarantee that's true. And it's got to be true.
As well, just running, if you run a different route or a different route, you see different things. Especially for me in real estate, it's like, oh, this house, who's selling that house? That house.
Me now, mofo. Yeah. I'm coming. Okay. Right. What is the weirdest thing a home buyer or seller has asked you to do? I'll give you mine first, actually, so you can think about it. I once had a client ask me to co-sign for them. They didn't qualify. I think it was a lack of income. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, so any ideas? Like, maybe get a co-sign, explain the whole process. Like, can you do it for me? And I'm just like, no, sir, I'm sorry, I cannot co-sign on your loan. I'm your loan officer.
Yeah, no, the weirdest thing, can't really think of any. Well, it's weird. It's a bit
8 years, there's got to be something weird.
It's just a bit touchy, but it was a bit like racist. You're just like, this was a rental, and you're just like, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. I'm just like, bruv, you don't want me to represent
crazy.
You. Yeah, I don't.
The balls. You
don't want me to represent you then, man. That's crazy. Like, just leave it alone. My job is difficult enough.
Yeah, I don't think that's weird.
I'm not trying to get arrested or get, in trouble. Like,
plus you don't want that in your circle. Yeah. Like, birds of a feather, what you do it for them, and then they refer you a bunch of other racist people you don't work with.
I was like, nah, I'm good, bro. Yeah, nah.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah. That's definitely a strange one.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it was weird. He was a weird guy anyway.
Yeah. You have to be weird to, like, at least, if you're going to ask that, like, at least feel the other person out, get a sense. Don't just, like, at a minimum, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I can't repeat it because it'd be offensive to people. Yeah. Like, but you're just like, don't do this, they do that. Don't get them, they do this. I'm like, bruv, you're in New York City.
Right.
And he lived in, like, the most multicultural part of the city as well.
That's funny.
I was like, yeah, man, you're strange.
Yeah. Why would you live here? Go somewhere else. Yeah. All right. I think we're like almost an hour or over an hour. Sorry, Anthony. Any final words of wisdom, or if not, or you could add it to where can people reach you, find you if they need you?
You can find me on IG. My full name, Isaiah Ajala, on the IG. I also have a podcast, actually, which Ben was on, which is Borrow for Borrow podcast.
It's a great podcast. Lots of fun.
Please listen to it, subscribe. We're on all platforms. I definitely want to get the listeners up. It's me and 4 colleagues just talking
which
about
you could have warned me about, by the way. I didn't know. I was like, all these random people walking in the room. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Made it a bit more fun.
Yeah. That was great.
Find me there. I'm also looking for more business. So
of course,
looking to sell your house. If you're in the boroughs, let me know. I'll be more than happy to facilitate or even just have a conversation with you. What else? Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. That's it. Thank you. We are wrapped up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
It was awesome.